What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millzy, back with Hometown Commander, and we're back for another episode of Millzy Reacts, a show where I react to big things, to big news, to things that have happened, and give you my opinion. I try not to do this all the time because it's not really the content I want to make all the time, but Wizards just did a few panels this weekend at MagicCon Chicago, and one of them was a Fallout panel. I'm not going to cover that one just because they finished off talking about all the Fallout cards, and we'll talk about those here as we swing into the decks. And believe me, I took a break from making those to record my reaction to this, but Wizards talked about the next 4 sets we're going to see this year. Outlaws of Thunder Junction, which is going to be the next standard set after Karlov Manor. Modern Horizons 3, Assassin's Creed Universes Beyond, and then Bloomborough, the next standard set after Outlaws of Thunder Junction. So, an interesting set of things, an interesting set of sets to talk about. Each of them have something that I really want to talk about and kind of just give my opinion on. I'd love to get your opinions on any of the things that I bring up in this video in the comments. Put the time code below in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about it. But first, we're going to talk about Outlaws of Thunder Junction, our next Magic standard legal set. Taking place in a Western-themed wasteland. And the way the Wizards expressed the set was that we have a bunch of outlaws coming to this land through Omen paths, seeking a vault that has lots of treasures. To me, it sounded just like Borderlands. I don't know if y'all have played Borderlands, but I've played all of them. They're games that I really enjoy. But to be 100% honest, the plot felt just like Borderlands. Try to get to be the first one to open the vault. Lots of big things going on in the vault. Of course, the big thing about Outlaws of Thunder Junction is that Oko is back, and Kellen is going to, in the set, find Oko finally and meet him. Now, in this splash image we have before us, we have some of the crew that Oko has. Up top, you can see Rakdos himself, and the reason why Rakdos wasn't in Murders of Karlov Manor and we only got to see Judas was because Rakdos was here. You see Vraska there to the left, Tiny Bones there at the bottom, and then Kellen on the right, which makes us think maybe Kellen has switched sides now that he's met his dad, and that there's more things to be seen. We got to see Oko's card, which says, at the beginning of combat on your turn, Oko becomes copy of up to 1 target creature you control at the end of turn, except he has hexproof. But the big thing on his card that raised some questions was his +1 draw 2 cards. If you've committed a crime this turn, discard a card, otherwise discard 2 cards. Well, they said on stage that committing a crime is casting a spell or using an ability that targets a permanent or player or an opponent, and that's how you commit a crime. I think that's an interesting mechanic. I think it could be fun depending on what gets used. And how it's used on cards, right? A lot of spell-slinging decks that deal damage are going to do this. Destroying creatures, right, is a way to commit a crime. I think there's or removing creatures or permanent. So I think there's an interesting space for it. I generally like mechanics that are fairly wide open because I think they give you lots of room to play with it. And so I hope that we see more of that involved on its way. They showed off the 5 basics, which I think are absolutely gorgeous. I like that the mana symbols for the colors exist in the photos. Some of them are a little bit more obscured. You know, that island's a little bit obscured there. Same thing with the tree there. But of course, you know, the mountain, the plains, and the swamp are pretty heads up. You know, if you bought a Fallout deck and you didn't really want to try to get the Fallout lands, or they get to be a little bit expensive, I think these might even be a half-decent substitution, but some people may like these. And again, I like full art lands that have the mana symbols on them, but obscure them somehow or make them kind of their own, and I like these. Again, I still have frustrations that full art lands are not 1 per pack. Of course, they will be 1 per pack in the collector boosters, but for people who are buying play boosters, bundles, pre-release packs, I wish it was easier to get these because most people play with full art basics now. We get to see some more art, but really the big things that we want to talk about are the 2 kind of bonus sheets that are in there. The first is the breaking news bonus sheet, seeing spells from Magic's past reprinted in this kind of newspaper, you know, the wanted poster type frame. They already said that anything that's printed in this, just like the Mystical Archive or the retro artifacts are not changing legality. They're just being reprinted one per pack in a new frame. I think that's a good idea, and the funny part that the one thing that Mark mentioned on the stage was that every spell in this breaking news is going to be considered a crime for the purposes of these effects, which I think makes sense, right? Wanted poster, someone who's created a crime. And then the second part of it was the big score, which is a subset of cards that were originally intended, to my understanding, to be for kind of like an aftermath booster, like we had for March of the Machine, but that pretty much failed. So they decided to just put them in the main set as another kind of bonus sheet type thing. All of these are standard legal, and I don't think they announced how many of them there's going to be, but you will see them, and they're going to have the BIG, the big score, for the set symbol. We did see the wanted poster frames for some of the villains, and I think I like it. It's odd to see these Magic frames where the frame's completely gone or it's obscured. I don't necessarily hate it, and there's going to be some people who really don't like it, but to be honest, I don't mind it. It makes the card look cool. I think for somebody who like Tiny Bones, if you wanted to have it as your commander, I think it would look cool at a table to have this card that looks different, but I know there's always going to be people that have their feelings on it. They showed off some other cards, including Sword of Wealth and Power, a new sword in that big score product, giving pro from instants and sorceries, which is kind of interesting. And they included they showed off the vault frame, the special frame that you can get these big score cards in. Of course, they ended off with flashing Fibblethip on the screen, which of course is funny. Fibblethip is a character everybody loves. And that, of course, we just got some information about the dates. But the one thing they didn't show off that we actually saw online this past week was a leak of the actual commander decks. Now, we're assuming these are correct because of the box art. All these look exactly like what you'd expect for the other commander decks that you see. And so I want to quickly talk about these. Again, I'm not confirming whether or not these are real. I'm going to guess they are based on the product packaging. This went all over Reddit. We see 4 precons, 3-color precons, and 1 2-color precon. Now, what's interesting here is the characters, right? I have no idea who these 2 are. We'll talk about those in a second. This Sultai deck down the bottom left, this certainly looks like Gonti to me. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but from looking at Gonti's cards, this looks exactly like Gonti to me. Same thing with the bottom right. This certainly looks like Olivia Voldaren to me. So that's kind of cool, seeing villains of the past. Gonti being from Kaladesh and Olivia Voldaren being from Innistrad, here to help them out. Now, these 2, I have no idea who they are. This Naya deck, though, cares about discarding lands and growing them back and has a desert in the name, and that was something that triggered a lot of people on Reddit talk about Hazazon, the card from Down Area United, about desert, so it could be interesting if that card could fit in there. Not sure what to feel about Quick Draw, but of course, if anyone knows me, they know I love my Izzet spell slinging commander, so I'm intrigued to see what these 4 are, and of course, as always, we're going to cover them on the channel. Well, getting our way into Modern Horizons 3, if you played during Modern Horizons 2, you know it did a lot of things. One, it completely shook up the Modern format as it was intended to do. This is a straight-to-Modern set that is also legal in Commander, but it introduced a lot of great reprints for our format and a lot of new cards to our format. I think probably, to me, off the top of my head, I think one of the best cards we got out of Modern Horizons 2 for our format is Chatterfang, and Chatterfang has its own section of decks. But we got to see Modern Horizons 3. The Tarkir fetches are all getting reprinted with special frames, and then that Emrakul, which we'll talk about in a second because I have feelings on it. We get to see the 5 Tarkir fetch lands there. Again, great to see them get reprinted. As a Naya player, I love seeing Windswept Heath and Woodfields get reprinted, but hey, Polluted Delta is fairly expensive, so is Bloodstained Mire, so hey, we'll take it. We'll take anything we can get. They showed a couple new cards. One was Scurria Goblin, so if you're getting into that Jeskai Fallout energy precon, there's going to be some energy in Modern Horizons 3, so I'm sure that's going to make y'all happy. And then they showed off a new free cycle. Of course, the Force of spells were very popular in, what was that, Modern Horizons 1, and then in Modern Horizons 2 it was the Elementals, right? So this looks like it's going to be the Flare cycle, 1 for each color, and you can sacrifice a non-token creature of that color rather than paying its mana cost. That's going to be kind of what it is this time around. Flare Cultivation is basically just a cultivate, except you can sack a non-token green creature to do it instead of paying for it. I think that's interesting. I think that'll be playable in in decks where you're making it when you're spamming out a bunch of creatures, I think that could be useful. I mean, there's going to be green decks where maybe you don't play it, but I think there's some where you could. I actually really like. I actually really like this Scurry of Gremlins for that energy deck. It looks like a really good gem, and a 4-mana uncommon feels like it's going to be killer there. Now, we did get to see a new Flip Planeswalker. They announced that Flip Planeswalkers were back. Of course, these were most popular in Magic Origins, which was kind of very close to when I started playing the game. Of course, we got to see 5 Planeswalkers there. Well, we get to see a Johnny. And the one thing I've noticed, of course, this is a Johnny in his origin story, kind of the same way that Magic Origins did. They wanted to show these Planeswalkers kind of in their origin opposed to what they are now, right? Of course, if Johnny was Phyrexianized, so obviously clearly he's not Phyrexianized here. And they were kind of talking about how this is kind of when his spark ignited and it enraged him. We get to see that old red-whited Johnny kind of come back. This is an interesting card. I like the idea of this. I'm glad they're back. I am sad that Planeswalkers are going away. You know, they're only 1 per standard set now, and I hope that we continue to see more and more of them because I really genuinely like Planeswalkers, and they could be really fun cards. If the Flipwalkers are their way to do it in the future, I don't think I mind that. Just remember, though, if you're going to play a Johnny Nikado Pariah, you have to use it in a red-white deck because that backside is a red permanent. You cannot put this in a mono-white deck. You have to have red and white in your deck in order to use it. So just be a little careful with that. If you read this card and go, I want this for my X deck, just remember that... for this deck or that deck, just remember that you have to have that red in there, which isn't that big of a deal, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, but it's just something to remember. They showed off art for Tamiyo, which is kind of cool. Of course, Tamiyo is dead, unfortunately, in the story, but it's cool to see that in these Horizon sets we can go back and see characters that are like that. They announced that Modern Horizons 3, just like Modern Horizons 2, is going to have a bunch of reprints, and these are going to be 1 per pack, but they're going to be cards that weren't originally in Modern, brought into Modern. Priest of Titania gets a reprint there, of course, the card that all Elf fans love, and then Lelia from those Commander decks comes into Modern, but this is good. Hopefully this just makes some cards in our format a little bit cheaper, a little bit more accessible. Of course, Priest of Titania is a great Elf card that I hope price comes down. I don't think it's terribly expensive at the moment from what I remember, but still the point is that it's getting cheaper and it's going to be more accessible. Lelia is a great card as well, and that's coming down. As far as the booster fund stuff, we got to see the 5 basic lands with very, very Eldrazi influence. I know that the panel really liked Swamp. I like them. I know a lot of people are going to want these Eldrazi lands, the people that really care about the Eldrazi and that kind of thing. And, well, they couldn't not talk about the Eldrazi without showing us an Eldrazi. We got Embercold the World Anew, a 12-mana Eldrazi. It says when you cast it, you gain control of all creatures target player controls, flying, protection from spells, and from permanents that were cast this turn. And when it leaves the battlefield, sacrifices all creatures you control. And for if you discard it, then its madness cost, you can pay 6 colorless. I don't think that this Emrakul's broken. Like, I think that it's definitely very good. Thankfully, the Eldrazi that are broken are banned from our format, being the original Emrakul. But I think this is an interesting card. I would have rather not had the madness on this, and I think it would have been a little bit fairer. I can imagine someone's going to be able to turbo this out for 6 mana in a colorless deck or something that's just making a ton of mana. So I'd probably rather not have the madness on it, but hey, you know someone's going to want this. I know there's guys you out there that want this for your big mana decks, and if so, I'm happy that you got some more Eldrazi. Eldrazi have never been my thing except Ulamog. Ulamog's always been a creature I've loved at the top end of some of my decks, but hey, I'm happy that Eldrazi fans are getting more. And speaking of getting more, we're going to go down to the Commander decks, because there are 4 Commander decks in this product, which is something that is new, right? Modern Horizons has never had Commander decks. Commander Masters had Commander decks, right? But Modern Horizons has never had it. And this threw a lot of people off online. They said, well, why? It's a Modern set. Why does it have Commander decks? I think Wizards is pretty convinced that they're going to keep spitting precons out. Now, I personally think that's fine. I would much rather have, if they're going to keep the streak of precons they've had lately, where they have great reprint value, great builds, the land bases aren't absolute trash anymore. If they're going to keep doing this for these precons, I am all for them making precons for every set they want to make. Heck, it's more SKUs for them. If they make more money, that's great. But if they keep giving us good precons, again, they're good for new players if that's what they come in on. They're good for existing players to get reprints of cards and to try new decks. And if that continues to be the case, I am all for it. Now, if they start going back to putting on just terrible mana bases and not giving us enough value in reprints and things like that, then I am all against it. But again, as long as we're getting good value, good reprints, and the decks are well constructed, and I don't mean like, power 7 or 8 level constructed. I mean just decently constructed and playable out of the box, like some of the more recent precons have been. I am all for it. Now, I will note that this means that Modern Horizons 3 will have a gift edition bundle, which means it should include a collector booster with it, like all the other gift edition bundles. That might be something, depending on the price, might be worth it. I'll just warn you, Modern Horizons 3, just like Modern Horizons 2, it's probably going to be a $10, $11 per play booster set. Just be aware, most of these modern and master sets are high risk, high reward. It may or may not be worth your money depending on how much you want to spend, so just be very careful. This bundle might be a $100 bundle for 9 play boosters, or $110 bundle, so just be prepared if this is a set you care about, that it's going to be a good investment down. I'm going to talk about the one thing that I'm a little bit afraid of when it comes to Modern Horizons 3, and that's this right here. You see that we have precons here. We have a precon and a collector's edition of the precon. I let the 40K thing go because I knew that it was going to be collectible, right? You have a 40K fans who might just want to buy the deck and have the fancy versions or keep it on their shelf, and I was all for it. I'm very worried about this right here because basically from all of what I can read on collector's editions are everything's foil and a couple things might be in a fancy treatment, and we have none of that confirmed yet. This is just going off what I've seen online. I hope there's enough in this collector's edition deck to make the price worth it. Otherwise, I'm very afraid that we're going to do more of these, and I don't want that. I know these precons are already going to be expensive on their own because they're with a premier set like a Modern Horizons 3. I know this is going to be a $110, $120 deck, and I really hope that the value is there. If not, I think this is going to trap a lot of people. So unless we get to see more, and this is a precon you really care about, don't go for the collector's edition, but hey, if that's your thing, go for it. I'm very intrigued to see what comes of this and what the price are. I expect these to be that same price level as the Commander Masters precons at $80 or $90, and if they are, I hope we see the value out of them. But we have a Jund Graveyard deck, a Simic Ramp and type deck, a Jeskai Energy deck, so this is going to probably fit in really well with that Science deck we just got out of the Fallout. So if that's a deck you cared about and you're not necessarily tied to Fallout, maybe you get this one instead and you work with it. The one thing to note that a lot of people pointed out online was the colors on this packaging was actually wrong on certain posts, but it looks like they fixed it here for being Jeskai. I really like Jeskai for energy though. Mainly because a lot of the energy cards out of Kaladesh and Aether Revolt really care about artifacts, and of course Jeskai decks are very good with artifacts. So this would be a deck that I probably wouldn't buy for myself, but I'd be very intrigued to see what this looks like. And then the one that caught me off guard was Eldrazi Incursion, which has all 5 colors and colorless on it. I understand why they did this because a lot of the Eldrazi are colorless, and we need to make sure that we have things in the deck that can produce colorless mana. I think they could have conveyed the same message by just putting the 5 colors on it. But oh my gosh, our first 6-color commander deck, that was the joke I saw online and things like that. Again, I thought Eldrazi got Zuladoc, a commander that I still have yet to see anybody make a fair deck list with. That deck is from Commander Masters, is a very strong deck, but again, that's only in colorless. So I'm intrigued to see what they do with the colored. My only thought here is by putting the 5 colors in, you get to play those devoid Eldrazi from Battle for Zendikar and things like that, but none of them are really that great. So I'm intrigued to see what they're doing here. Why add the 5 colors in? What is our thought going to be? Because colorless Eldrazi decks always do very good with ramp. There's so many artifacts like Worn Power Stone and Thran Dynamo that just ramp you so quickly. I don't know why we need the 5 colors to do it, but again, I'm intrigued to see why they're doing this, like I said, because I'm very intrigued. I mean, they're always so good in colorless, but hey, I guess we'll wait to find out. Looks like Modern Horizons 3 kicks off the stuff on May 21st. Again, love the art. I love what Johnny is one of my favorite planeswalkers of all time, so I love seeing him. Love seeing Tameo back in art. So I'm intrigued to see what we have here. Again, Modern Horizons 2 is a set that was very well received from our format just because of what it gave us, the reprints, Cabal coffers, all the things that were involved. So I'm very intrigued to see what Modern Horizons 3 is going to do for us. It will be a set we cover here on the channel because, again, the second one was so important to our format, and I have no reason not to cover it, especially when we're getting new precons. Well, the set I knew was coming, and I had seen some things about Beyond boosters, which we'll talk about in a second, and they showed off Assassin's Creed Universes Beyond. Again, I know that every time we talk about Universes Beyond, there's a section of the player base that just doesn't like non-magic things in their Magic. I'm sure you've seen a ton of joke videos about it, and I'm gonna use my "You shall not pass" on your Iron Man, and there's been all these videos jokes. I think at first I was a little apprehensive, mainly with the secret layers because they were very difficult to get. Thankfully we got reprints of some of them. We didn't get reprints of all of them, but hey, they reprinted The Walking Dead into Magic frames, and they reprinted the Stranger Things stuff. And okay, cool. I'm glad that it was more accessible. My real thing at first was how inaccessible it was, but as long as the cards are readily available for people, and the one benefit we have nowadays with how many treatments cards are, it does help cards come down a little bit in value. I'm not opposed to Assassin's Creed. Again, I'm sure there's players that are really excited to play with Assassin's Creed. It's a set of games that I've played a little bit. I really loved the game set in London, and I really enjoyed a little bit of Origins in that desert, Egypt climate. But I really haven't played much more Assassin's Creed than that. So I'm sure there's other people that are a lot more excited about this, especially with Valhalla, the one that was the Vikings. And then I believe there's a new game that just came out. I believe if I recall correctly, kind of in the Middle East. I could be wrong on that. I haven't paid attention to Assassin's Creed in a while. But we got to see the Animus, of course, the thing that the main characters use to go back in time to play as these characters. We got to see Altair and Ezio, of course, the first and the original characters of their type. But the thing that kind of caught me off guard was that they were going to make iconic faces from history into cards. Leonardo da Vinci and Cleopatra, Exile the Pharaoh. Interesting choices. I kind of never would have expected Leonardo da Vinci on a Magic card. I don't care at the end of the day if this is a card that you like and you want to make a deck around it. I'm all for players getting what they want out of this game and getting what they want out of our format. I just never would have expected it. The cool part, and I don't know if we're going to see it down below, is the serialized versions of these cards are actually printed in the actual person's native language. So Leonardo da Vinci is in Italian and Cleopatra's in Greek, which I guess is pretty cool. But they talked about the Beyond boosters, a way to open this product for Universes Beyond, because there are no decks, there are no anything, it's just these boosters. So there's ways to open the cards, but there's also reprints, and one of these made me really happy in Cover of Darkness. Cover of Darkness is a card for black tribal decks that's been very difficult to get as it only was printed way back in the day. Love seeing Cover of Darkness get reprinted, although it's still going to be pretty expensive. Temporal Trespass makes sense because we get a sort of Feast and Famine reprint. Love this art. This art's absolutely gorgeous. So again, I like seeing that we're going to get some big reprints here, and hopefully they can get some circulated. I'm just worried because Cover of Darkness is a pretty highly... it's a card that a lot of people want, and I'm worried not enough of them are going to get out there. This card's going to stay expensive, but I like this idea, and we'll see going forward what this ends up becoming. They showed the new frame, that Animus type style memory frame. Again, I don't mind that the frame's obscured. I think it looks nice. There's going to be a lot of people that absolutely hate this. I don't mind it. I think it looks cool, and it's cool to see the cards that way. There's a starter set for it with Ezio and Eivor, so that's cool. Get your friends into Magic with Assassin's Creed if that's their thing. The Lord of the Rings starter kit I know did really well, so that's cool. I like the idea of that. You got a bundle if that's what you want to do. I think I may just put my hand at one bundle depending on the price just to have some fun, open it, see what it's all about. Collector boosters as well, so what you would expect from that. But here we go. Here's what I was talking about with those serialized one, the Leonardo in Italian and then the Cleopatra in Greek. So kind of cool as an idea. I don't care about either of the cards, but hey, that's okay. The product's not for me, and that's completely fine. I think it's well and okay to have Magic release a product that isn't for you. We don't always have to buy the next thing that comes out, but I really appreciate them doing what, trying these things and trying to make them feel thematically like what they're trying to accomplish, and I think I like that. Well, I think the thing I was the most excited about, because we got to see, when they first originally announced this, I loved what the splash art looked like. And after hearing about Bloomborough in this panel, I am all for Bloomborough. Bloomborough is a set where there are no humanoid creatures. Everything is an animal or or some sort of non-human being. Of course, they are all like they're animated. They're acting like you see the mouse in the middle of the night and the frog that's a spell, a wizard. You can see that they have. They have more classic D&D type properties to them, being archers and things like that. But what I think is really cool is that this is a way for them to push something that we're not used to in a fun way. And of course, what made me happy was they announced that there are 10 two-color tribal pairs in this set. Mice, frogs, badgers, bats, rabbits, and frogs. And this makes me really excited because I think that that's something that players have been wanting for certain tribes. We know squirrels are in it, and of course squirrels have gotten support in the past. But hey, mice haven't really got support, even though we've seen them. Rabbits have seen some interesting cards, but have never gotten real support. Same thing with frogs, within reason. So I'm intrigued to see what comes of this and what two-color pairs they're going to be. We got to see the mice creature, which is going to be in red-white. We got to see two more, and we'll talk about them, but we did get to see the rabbits, which were in white-green, which is what I expected after seeing things like Pollen Shield Hair in Wilds of Eldraine. But we got to see this beautiful world, and I have to say, all of the art I've seen from this set really reminds me of the beauty I love of art from things like Zendikar. Zendikar's a plane I love because it's just so landscape heavy and beautiful, and this is how I feel on Bloomborough. The Great Night Owl is the main villain, influencing the land, and that's pretty cool. We get to see Mabel, the kind of legendary creature for the mice. We'll see that in a second. And just some more really cool art. I love it. I know it's going to be kind of memey, I'm sure, to some people. But I like it. To me, it looks cute, but it also looks fun at the same time. And then they threw a left field curve at us, which was Rolzark as a badger. That was the one thing that I hadn't thought about was, well, our planeswalker is going to be there. But they said, hey, if a planeswalker comes to this land, they take the form of an animal, which kind of made me immediately think of like Sora in Kingdom Hearts going to the different worlds and kind of either dressing or like Lion King becoming a lion. That was like the first thing that came to my head. I don't know about you guys, but Ralzarek as an otter, I believe if it's technically an otter because of a card that we've seen, love it. Absolutely love it. I love Rawl. A lot of his cards have been really fun, and I'm so excited to see what that looks like. But we saw Mabel, Heir to Cragflame, getting mice to be a tribe and giving them a leader for it. They mentioned that if you went and looked back at the more recent sets and over time, you should be able to piece together what we think each tribe might be. So clearly we're tipping our hand to red-white being mice. And of course, Mabel's card caring about equipment seems about right, for what you'd expect from Boros. I love seeing Lumbra here. They said, well, Bloomborough is a world where we're looking at these small creatures as being normal. A bear is something that's going to be massive, right, compared to these things. And so this is a star bear, where star's the number of lands you control. And when it comes in, you mill for and return all lands from your graveyard back to the battlefield tapped. It's an elemental, which I'm sure some decks will care about. If you have an Omnath deck or something like that, that's going to be helpful. I'm sure there's other decks that care about this. I just love it. It looks cool. And I love seeing that they're doing this interestingly. The one thing that I'm excited about, but also have trepidation about, is the full art lands. They have 4 versions of each full art land, 1 for each season, and I'm so happy about this. I think these look really cool. But again, if you're gonna have 4 versions of them, we gotta have them 1 per pack. If if there's 4 versions of all of these lands, so there's 20 versions total, and there's still not one per pack, it's going to be way too hard for people to get these. And this is my biggest gripe right now with Wizards, is why aren't these one per pack? Give us them in play boosters, let people have access to them, and to use this fun art. So if they're not, I'm going to be really let down. Otherwise, love the look of these, and I can't wait to see what all of them look like. We see Mabel here in this storybook art. I think it looks kind of cool, and we see Lumra in the some art there. This field notes art looks kind of interesting. I'm intrigued to see what we see more of that. But this was the splash that they put at the end that kind of threw everyone for even more of a loop, and that is Jace as a fox. It was not really something I expected to see, to be 100% honest. Of course, last time we saw Jace, he was pretty Phyrexianized and being involved in that, but Jace is going to be there, which hopefully the story tells us why he's no longer Phyrexianized, or why he's there and what's going on. So I'm intrigued to see that. But okay, so we've seen Rawl and we've seen Jace. Maybe we'll see who else is going to be there. Love the set symbol. Again, it kind of gives me the Animal Crossing, that kind of vibe. Love the art on the boosters. I think it looks so cool with the frog there. We see Rao there on the bundle. Pre-release, love this art right here. It's just so pretty. I hope that we get some sort of like wallpaper size of this art so I can make it my wallpaper. But we saw the 4 decks already, which is why I thought it was odd that we didn't see the Junction decks, because they've already been leaked out there, and they talked about Junction already, about stuff being leaked, so I'm intrigued. We have 4 decks: a Raccoon, Gruul, Make Trash, Go Smash, a Jeskai, Make Offspring, Go Wide deck, a Bant, Rabbit, Group Hug, plus one counters, and a Golgari Squirrels deck, which makes a ton of sense. I mean, Chatterfang being in Golgari makes a ton of sense. So I'm excited about these. I think these look really cool. The top 2 interest me more than the bottom 2, and I just pulled this up here so we can see the art a little bit better. This, of course, makes me excited. I love my Jeskai Tokens deck, so of course that makes me excited. I probably wouldn't go for this one because I'm already making a couple Pulse and Pulse Counters deck, and of course the Squirrels are going to make a lot of people happy. We see a starter kit with these 2 cards, and I have them pulled up, so we'll talk about them separately. We see Bria, Riptide Rogue, and Otters. So Otters are going to be our red-blue tribe, which makes a ton of sense with things like Lutri and other Otters in Magic's past. I love the look of this card. Prowess. Other creatures have prowess, so this is kind of that Narset effect. And then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. Love this card. I probably wouldn't play this as a commander, but I love this and some of the other decks that I have, spell slinging decks, especially like this kind of Grixis pile I've been working on for a long time. I love this card. I love the Otter. I love the art. This makes a ton of sense, and I'm intrigued to see what Otters look like in the set. And then we got Burke, Long Year of the Law, Rabbits, green-white for the Rabbits, which makes sense. Whenever it comes in, put a counter on each up to 2 creatures. Whenever a creature you control the counter on it attacks, double the amount of counters on it. This makes sense. Selesnya most of the time is either counters or tokens, so I get it. I like it. It seems like it's not a bad cost for this. I would kind of, sometimes with these starter deck commanders, they can either be way too overcosted or just not do enough for their mana. I think Bria's a perfect cost, and this is kind of like to me, it's kind of 1 mana more expensive than Balmor, and I feel like that fits really well. Burka maybe could have been a 5 mana 4/4 or 5 mana 3/3 instead of a 6 mana 4/4, but again, I still like it. I still think it fits what we are trying to do. But that is everything that was covered in the MagicCon Chicago panel. I had a ton of fun watching this panel and hearing about the new things. I know you guys, if you guys watched it, let me know what you thought overall, or let me know what you think of the things we talked about here on this video. Again, this isn't a video style I want to do all the time, but this was enough information and enough things that affected our format that I wanted to talk about it. I want to, I want you guys to get to learn me more and understand me more, and this Blue and Burrow set is something I'm very intrigued in. Of course, everything will be coming to the channel. We'll be brewing. The brewing ain't stopping. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will catch you guys next time.